Hello, friends. Welcome back to the School of Self-Worth. I'm your host, Nicole Song. Today, we have got a big topic on tap. Like this one, I could talk about for a really long time, but I'm going to try to keep it succinct for you because this is a huge one that comes up all the time for my clients. And that is when they feel guilty. And when that guilt is driving their decisions and their ability to live their life with worthiness and value and power. And it is something that I usually only talk about inside my course, Your Clear Calling, but I didn't want to gatekeep this particular topic because honestly, it is too good. It is so good. So, we're going to get into it in just a moment. And if you are an Asian American corporate leader who is ready to reverse cultural conditioning, keeping you in hiding at work, and you're ready to step into a visible, thriving life where you own your authentic voice, DM me visible at Nicole Song on Instagram because I've got something over there for you. Okay, friends, let's dig into this topic. Have you ever asked yourself, what would it be like to live a life without guilt? I mean, would that be a game changer or what? And if you've never actually considered that question, this is such a good episode for you because I know that whenever I feel guilty, it is always a sign to me that something is crashing my brain and my system. And I immediately want to right the ship. Like, I don't want to hang out on that guilt pathway any longer than I have to. So, today I'm going to share a special 2-step process for how to give up the guilt. But first, we have to talk about where we learned it in the first place and how to start to untangle ourselves from that feeling of guilt. And if you have Asian parents, you might have had guilt baked into life, to your existence. Like, if you loved me, you would do this. You must not love your mother. You don't care about your family. Or I am the worst mother to raise an ungrateful child like you. I'm being a little dramatic, but it might feel a little bit too real for you. So that is that is basically guilt tripping, right? And then, so there's that piece of it. And then there's actually feeling guilty. So it's helpful first to know if you're being guilt tripped. So I'm going to talk about that part first. And then I'm going to talk about when you do it to yourself. So if you are being guilt tripped, the first thing to recognize is that it is happening. And the most essential thing to remember is to not get caught in the trap. Like your parents, let's give another example. If your parents live far away from you and they say, "Oh, you never visit us," which may or may not be true. I have a feeling you probably do visit them, but maybe not as often as they want, or you're only going to stay for 3 days. It's so far. You should stay longer, that kind of thing. So, this is what I call a game, and you are being played because you get to decide what works for you. Does it work for you to visit them in your life, in your finances, and what you want in terms of connection and relationship with your parents? What works for how much time you want to spend there in your life? Again, you have a work schedule, if you have a family, like there's a lot of things that are going on. You need to know what you want in order to be able to handle the guilt. And the reason the guilt tripping gets you, it like hooks you, is because you haven't spent any time getting clear on the kind of relationship and connection you want to have with your family. And so until you figure that out, it is honestly easy to guilt trip you. And then what happens? You go, you spend more time and money than you want to, and now you resent them and you're kind of pissed about it, even though you secretly do really want to have a good relationship with them, but you can't get over the guilt tripping. And so you really have to start to spend some time and understand what's causing you to give into the guilt trip and instead take a step back and really learn how to have clarity for yourself around the relationships you want and not to give into it. So that's one example of it. This one comes up a ton with my clients, and we have to spend actually quite a bit of time starting to separate out What is that relationship? What does it look like? Because it can become, again, really loaded if you've had a lot of past experiences with them that has felt negative around your parents or challenged around your parents. So getting clear on the relationship that you want with them would be the first step. And if that's something you're like, I really want to know more about that, we do work on this a ton inside your clear calling. And you might be like, wow, I thought we worked on, getting promoted and really having our own visibility and voice in your clear calling. And we do all of those things. And family is part of that. Part of the reason we don't actually speak up and own who we are is because of experiences like this. When we are feeling guilt tripped by our family and then we give our power away because we give in to what they want, that also shows up in your workplace. So all of it is linked together, all of it is tied together. And it's really important to address that first thing and just say, okay, like, how do I actually reclaim my own power with family? And so that's one kind of guilt. There's another type, though, is when you guilt trip yourself. Who does that, right? Like, this one is so sneaky when you feel guilty about something and no one has said anything to you, but you're the one who's causing it and creating it. And this one is really sneaky and essential to understand. So we're going to go with the work example because this one comes up a lot for people at work. You feel guilty. Let's say you decide to take a week off of work because you've been working really hard. And now you feel guilty about taking time off. Even though this is part of what you are paid for, they give you time off, they pay you to take time off. Your boss might even tell you to take time off if you have a good boss, and you feel bad when you actually do it. And then not only do you feel bad while you're doing it, so then this is affecting the trip or the time off that you do have, where the whole time you're kind of thinking about work, you're thinking about all the projects you didn't finish before you left, you're worrying about if they need you for something, and you're feeling guilty that whole time. So this now can be a key reason you don't actually enjoy your vacation. And then there's the guilt that happens when you come back because you don't know what was happening when you were gone, unless maybe you did hop on your email, but even then you're trying to catch up on big projects and things that were moving forward while you were away. And now you're in this deep level of worry. You're worried they're going to think you're not carrying your weight. You're worried that they're going to think that you're not that bright. And who is she to have this position? She can't even do it, like, because she's leaving all the time. So now we have the guilt of away, and then we have the guilt of the return. Anybody ever been there, right? So this can get pretty deep and profound for people. And the first, we have this two-step process that I'm going to go through today to talk to you about it, and so that you can really understand. And the first part is that you have to understand that you feel guilty. You have to identify it and allow yourself to be like, wow, I am feeling really guilty about all of these things. And to really also understand if this is something you learned growing up, like the examples I gave earlier with your family, that you might have, especially with Asian parents, have learned that you should put your family in front of yourself. So putting yourself first might have actually been quite frowned upon. And let's face it, that's just kind of what happens often in Asian families. Families first, the whole is first. And so you always prioritized what they needed. And now, as an adult, you're probably doing the same thing where you prioritize your work over your own personal needs. But we also know the cost of that. The cost of that is so high where you are exhausted, you're burned out because you never take time off, and you have put all your worth and your value into your job. And so this, can you see how deeply entangled guilt gets in there? So we have to really understand first, like, oh, did I learn it growing up? Yes. Is that why I feel guilty all the time? Yes. Maybe someone is guilt tripping you. Again, that's totally possible. Am I falling for it because I already feel guilty? And so now that we have thoroughly identified the guilt, we're like, wow, it is permeating all these different parts of my life and the way that I'm thinking. It is disrupting my vacations. It's causing me to feel less than all the time at work. And then now this leads us into the second step of the system. And this is really, really essential to get. This one is probably the most challenging to do. It sounds really easy in theory, and the actual application of it takes some effort and work, which is why we work on it so much inside Your Clear Calling. And this is to detach. So this is to get really detached from your work and your job. And now you might be like, well, Nicole, I don't want to detach from my job because then that will make people think that I don't care or I'm not doing a great job. Detachment has nothing to do with your performance. Detachment has everything to do with how you feel about your relationship with your job. Because when you can actually detach yourself, like who you are and your value from your work, that's where the magic starts to happen. That's when we actually can start to unlearn the guilt and release the guilt and go on vacations we actually enjoy. Because when you are attached, right? So when you're attached to what people think of you, you're attached to whether they think you're doing a good job, you're attached to whether you get promoted, that is when you are in worry. That's when you're in guilt and you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I have to get back. I shouldn't have taken this time off. When you're detached, you're not worried about what people think about you because you trust that you are performing to the best of your ability and you're doing what your job is asking you to do. The likelihood that you'll feel guilty goes down significantly. So I'm going to give you an example from one of my clients. My client, Allie, did this two-step process recently when she had a week off. And instead of worrying that people were thinking she was dumb or not understand things after she took a whole week for herself, she trusted that when she came back, that they would fill her in. Imagine that, like that people would say, hey, this is what we worked on. I wanted to keep you apprised of the situation. She remembered that she was smart. She remembered that she was an effective leader. And she believed that anything that she needed to know that she would find out in the process. So instead of feeling guilty and trying to scramble when she came back or work the day before she came back, those of you who like check your email Sunday night because she's like, I just don't want to deal with what's going to happen. She just was like, hey, like it's going to be fine. And it's not that she didn't care or feels passionate about her work. She just detached the idea that her worth or her value was contingent on her knowing everything and being totally up to date and how much she worked or didn't work on the vacation or how fast that she caught up. And really what she did is she didn't work. And then she came back and she was detached. And guess what? Everything was fine. And so we have to really start to understand, like, think about this. Like, if you have a coworker who goes on vacation, when they come back, it's like, oh yeah, like I'm just going to tell them what happened. I'm going to update them and let them know these are the significant steps that happened, or like this didn't happen. We're waiting for you to get back, which is fine. And that doesn't have to be something that you feel guilty about, right? So, or guilt trip somebody else for. You can just be like, hey, we're adults. We all need breaks. I know that when someone on my team goes on vacation, I'm like, great, like they're going to be refreshed, they're going to be creative, they're going to feel they'll have energy for what they want to do. I know that's what happens for me when I take time off. So, how can we start to really change this conversation around guilt and see that it's an attachment issue? It's more about we are worried about this has to be a certain way. And when we can start to detach and say, I'm going to just give it my best effort and see how it goes, then that is when you really bring back your own power. Because working without a break is just not possible. Like it's not possible. And all of us, especially in the United States, like we work way more hours and really is probably healthy for our brain. And so time off is actually essential. Your brain is a muscle. It cannot work 24/7. It needs breaks. It needs time off. So the next time you feel guilty about time off or needing to do something for yourself, and I'm looking at you moms too, like to do something for yourself instead of just giving everything to your kids all the time. Remember the way to feel free and to bring your power back to yourself, that you are a multifaceted human being with many interests and many ways that you are valuable and loved in the world, is for you to show yourself that, like, I can take vacation, I can work, I can hang out with my family, I can do things for myself. Like all of that is detaching your self-worth from any one thing. And when you can start to do that and understand you are a human who gets to take time off, who gets to relax, and that you're worthy no matter what happens at work, that is when we really start to let the guilt be something we put to the side. So this again, this conversation is so big and vast, and it's something that I love sharing. So just remember again, this make it simple, keep a two-step process. Notice the guilt, notice the depth of it, notice where it's playing you. And then the second step is to detach from the outcome. The thing that you're attached to, we can just get some detachment in, non-attachment. You're like, okay, I'm just going to be doing my best in my life right here. And then that's when you can just start to open up to what else could be possible for you to live a life where you don't have guilt. I teach this process and more, so much more inside Your Clear Calling. So if you're a high achieving Asian American woman who wants to permanently reverse the cultural conditioning causing your guilt so that you can step into a dream career full of freedom, DM me reverse on Instagram because I've got something over there for you at Nicole Song. All right, friends, thank you so much for this deep conversation, and I can't wait to see you next time.